Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Anime1 here, and today I'm here with another video of what if Naruto was neglected and ended up like Obito part 7. So let's begin the video. 1 month later. Team 7. Naruto never felt at peace with the team. There was always someone watching him over. A pair of eyes that always stared at him. It annoyed him to no end. There was a few times that he had thought of killing someone because of the constant watchful eyes that always tailed him, like his own shadow. It felt like he was a criminal by being watched. It was not just Team 7, it was everywhere he went in the village. There was always someone watching him like a hawk. Konoha did not trust him. He was seen as a flight risk. It was clear that no one trusted him because he refused to tell them anything. Even when they had tried to force all the information out of him, he still had no fears. They could not touch him. The feeling he was having now was the same his grandfather felt when Konoha had formed and Hashirama was made the Hokage. His grandfather was not trusted by the village, and that could never make him the leader. Without the trust of the village, even from a clan he led, Madara was forced to defect from the village. It was now the same with him. Konoha refused to trust him because he kept things from them. He really hoped that it did not end the same way as it did with his grandfather with him. It would make his goals hard to achieve, but not impossible. His skills in taijutsu were not what they feared. No, they feared the things that he was hiding. They concluded that he was hiding his true strength. The conclusion made them even more suspicious of him. They could not understand why he would hide his true strength. They thought that he was hiding his true strength because he was planning something. They could not believe that it was for the good of the village. If it was for the good of the village, he would not have to hide it. Well, that was true up to some extent. What he wanted was not for the good of the village, it was for the good of the world. And in the process, the village would have to get sacrificed. Despite the constant watch he was under, Naruto had no fears of his secrets being discovered by someone. The only reason Naruto had not have any fears because he knew they could never do anything from him unless he was careless. But with the constant watch, he could not only train anywhere to do anything private outside of his own apartment. His apartment was the only place that gave him the privacy he needed, but he was sure if sooner or later they would bypass his security seals. He was good in seals, yes, but he was nowhere near Minato's or Kushina's level, and he was sure that they would break the seals if they wanted to. They were just not doing it right now because they wanted to rebuild his relationship with them. With Team 7, he had no worry about Kakashi who always had his eye on him. Even when they were on missions, the Jonin paid too much attention to him than his other students. Kakashi was taking his job seriously than Naruto thought the Jonin would. He never made a mistake of leaving Naruto alone. No, if he was going somewhere, it would be during Team 7 activities. Jonin would leave a shadow clone with Naruto, but the Jonin was very friendly and valued Team as a part of his own family. This value made Naruto question why Kakashi could choose to spy on one of his comrades. When Minato had told him to spy on Naruto, Kakashi spied, but not as seriously as he was doing now. Naruto thought that the council had taken a part in that change. The fools were capable of anything, especially Danjo, the other two advisors. If they were people kill, it would be the elders. Then there was Suki. She was getting stronger just like Naruto had planned. He was informed by Zetsu that Orochimaru was planning an invasion, and that is where his plans would take place, and he would leave Konoha, and yet he would not be considered a rogue shinobi, and that was his master plan. He didn't want to get followed by Konoha shinobi, assuming that he was alive in that case. Then came Menma. Naruto was displaying that he and Minmao were getting along, and the same could be said for the Namikaze family. He was talking with the family and smiling at them at some times, which made the family happy, especially Kushina. They thought that they were getting through him, but in reality, Naruto was just playing with them. It was a part of his plan. He felt nothing for them, no hate, no love, absolutely nothing. Naruto had been thinking a better way to reveal some of his secrets to Konoha to get them off his back. Revealing some of his secrets would get them to lessen the number of shinobi they have him following around. He would not need to have been watched 24/7 since they would have found out what he was hiding from them. He would have more space to breathe and more privacy than he was having currently. He was patient and would wait for the right time, rushing into things that had its own consequences. He would rather not have to deal with those consequences, just wait a little more. Naruto was walking calmly through Training Ground 7 alone, looking around the village. He had come to notice that some of the villagers had stopped glaring at him. They had lost their hateful looks, but not all of them had. Some of them still had glared at him, but they had lost the intensity they used to have before he was a Genin. This kind of change surprised him. He did not understand what had made them stop glaring at him. Naruto was so consumed by his thoughts that he was not paying attention to where he was going. He ended up bumping into someone who also seemed to have been lost in thoughts. Likely no one was hurt since they were not moving at a fast pace. Naruto father himself looked at who he had hit. He noticed that there were three people in front of him. The one he had bumped into was glaring at him. He was a boy in his teens. "Watch where you're going, brat," the boy who Naruto bumped into yelled. He wore a black bodysuit and black shinobi sandals. His face was painted with face paint. He wore a sunogakure forehead protector. He had something strapped behind his back that Naruto could tell what it was. It did not seem like a weapon or anything he had seen before. Naruto was not going to apologize to the boy. He had never apologized to anyone after Madara's training. He was not going to start now. Soon a shinobi was glaring at him as if he could beat him. He was underestimating him because he was younger than him. Naruto ignored the Suna shinobi's words and looked at the other two in front of him. There was a blonde girl with her hair tied in 4 pigtails at her back. Her eyes were light green. She had a battle fan strapped behind her back. She was slightly taller than the boy in the black suit. She wore a light purple dress that showed off her well-developed breasts, and there was a shinobi fishnet underneath her dress, and her dress was short. It revealed some of her body. Her forehead was tied to her neck. The last one seemed younger than the other ones. He seemed to be the same as Naruto. He had short red spiky hair. His eyes were blank with dark tints. On top of his left eye there was a tattoo with a kanji for love. He had an emotional look on his face, giving off a feeling of bloodlust. He had a gourd on his back, and the three were Sunagaku shinobi. The blonde and the red-haired just looked at him, while the black-haired in a black bodysuit was enraged that Naruto had ignored him. He brought his right hand out and grabbed Naruto by his shirt. "Don't you dare ignore me, I'm talking to you, little shit." Naruto narrowed his eyes dangerously at the teen. This was something he could not forgive. One did not touch him like this and got away with it. Yes, he did hit the teen, but it was not intentional. He was lost in his thoughts, so was the teen. "Kankuro, what are you doing?" the blonde-haired girl said. Now the teen, identified as Kankuro, did not even bother to look at her. He just grinned. "I'm trying to teach these brats how to respect other older than him, he said. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto drove his fist into Kankuro's stomach. Kankuro let go of Naruto and closed his stomach while gritting his teeth. "That hurt," he said under his breath. "That is what happens when you act like a fool. Now, you are embarrassing our village by your foolishness," a cold voice said. The red hair was the one who spoke, and that made the blonde and Kankuro tense up. Looking at Kankuro, he seemed scared of something, and it was like he had forgotten the presence of the red hair. "Sand siblings, I should have recognized the children of the Kazekage," Naruto said impassively. "Sabako no Gara, the Jinchuriki of the One Tails," he said, making the two Sand Shinobi's eyes widen. "Sabako no Kankuro and Sabako no Tamari, the eldest of the Sand siblings," he said, narrowing his eyes at Kankuro. Gaara smiled. It was a creepy smile. It was as if he was imagining Naruto being fed to his own hand. "Yeah, next time you touch me like that, I'll cut off your hand and feed it to you," he said darkly, making Kankuro gulp at the threat. "If it was not that you are here as a guest to the village, I would have killed you on the spot for your foolishness. Do not try to attack someone even without evaluating their skills and strength," he lectured, walking away. "What's your name?" Gaara asked in his emotionless tone. Naruto stopped and looked at the Jinchuriki. "Uzumaki Naruto. I shall see you at the exams, Sabako no Gara," he said as it disappeared from the view. Gaara grinned madly, making his siblings look at him fearfully. They knew that kind of smile. It was the kind of grin he always wore when he was thinking of killing someone with sand. They feared that kind of smile. They could only feel sorry for the blonde shinobi now. He should have never met Gaara in the first place. Training Ground 7. Chunin exams, Naruto thought. He had forgotten about them. Zetsu had informed him about them. He thought that it was why Kakashi had called him today. He brushed off his thoughts and took his taijutsu, superior to the most in the village. Only Minato could defeat him, or not even the third Hokage or Jiraiya were a match for him right now. His EMS gave him the great advantage against most opponents. Naruto caught his sight of the two other teammates that were also in the squad, and as normal, Kakashi was late. "Hello." They all looked up and saw Kakashi looking down on all of them. His eyes smiled at them as he jumped down to match their current levels. "Sorry, I got lost in the road of life," Menma huffed with much of annoyance. "Liar," he said. Anyway, I have something special that I want to show the three of you." They raised an eyebrow, noticing that he was pulling something from his pouch. "What's that?" Kakashi stretched out his hand towards them, showing three small pieces of paper sticking out of his hand. "These three are your tuning exam application form. I had recommended you three to participate in the tuning exams. All three genins were satisfied with this development. I can fight Menma and Naruto," Suki thought, looking at the blonde right next to her. She wanted to fight him so badly. He was someone who was able to measure and exceed her standards at Shinobi, and Menma was somewhat of a rival to her. "Even if I recommended you three into the tuning exams, this is still very much an optional choice that you can decide on your own." They nodded, looking at the pieces of paper that they had been given. "This is all I had to inform you three for today. These exams take place in 5 days. You three can take the day off until the day of the exams." The three nodded once more, understanding what he was saying. Kakashi then disappeared in a swirl of leaves. "Tuning exams," Naruto thought, looking right in front of him. There was no way he was not entering the exam. They all started to walk back home. Hokage Monument. It was sunset and Naruto was enjoying the view up in the Hokage's monument. He had managed to get the shadows that always followed him to follow the clones while he got some breathing space. He did need the time sometimes, and a time where nobody was watching him, recording everything he did. He felt annoyed when he sensed someone coming up to him. He did not want to talk to the person at this time. He turned around to see the old man with the cane. His right hand was wrapped up in bandages, and his left eye was also covered up in bandages. He had an X-shaped scar on his chin. Danzo Chimera, Naruto said. I was wondering when he would appear before me. Looking at the bandages, he felt disgusted, knowing what the old man was hiding under those bandages. Danzo was another person he had on his must-kill list, but he was not gonna kill Danzo. It was someone else. He had plans for that. He was also a threat because he desired to be Hokage, the old man who loved to be in control of Konoha, but he was going to be patient and let the old man play for now. Danzo's face was impassive as he studied Naruto. Uzumaki, he thought. He did not see a person looking at Naruto. No, he saw a weapon that must be under his control. He could only make it powerful and program it to fight for the village. His root Anbu told him that the boy's potential, and it was obvious that he was hiding his power. He could have trained the boy so that he could become a loyal weapon for the village, not someone who was a flight risk. The village seems very peaceful looking from here, isn't it? He said, to see how the blonde would respond. He could not get into the seriously business without having an idea what kind of person the blonde was. He had reports of the rude Anbus, but to confirm everything he needed to see it himself. It is lovely, but get to the point. I do not think you came here to talk to me about such trivial things, Naruto said. Danzo nodded. I have a proposition for you, he said. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the old man. Danzo was looking at him with cold and calculating eyes. I have no interest in joining your brute forces, Danzo. In fact, I have no interest in associating myself with you, he said. Naruto knew his real roots, which was a secret that only in Anbu knew. The boy must know more secrets. His root was an S-rank secret. Not even Jonin knew of this secret. His root, it was thought to have been disbanded, but it was still operating undergrounds. In official reports, but it was still running in his division. I see. Our suspicions were right about you. How do you know about my root division? He asked, curiously wanting to see if the boy would give out some information. Your root is not much of a secret, but what with your roots is what is the secret that no one outside the division knows, he said. But Danzo, I'm not a threat to the village as you people perceive me to be. Danzo now saw a threat in Naruto. The boy spoke of his root activities like he knew what they did. It was not good for him. Anyone that did agree with his ideals was threat to him and his goals. What troubled him the most was he did not know the capabilities of the blonde. The fact that the boy was treated so bad by his family and the village made Danzo even more suspicious of the boy. But he was a patient man. Naruto was still young. He was bound to make crucial mistakes that would cost him. He would be ready to capitalize and get the boy to work for him, and someone with the potential as Naruto being under his control would make his goal of being Hokage even closer. Danzo turned to leave. My offer to join my cause still stands. I can make you into a great shinobi and teach you and help you to reach your full potential. Should you join me? He said and disappeared. Naruto sighed. Better than he thought it would. He did not reveal much to the old Warhawk. Danzo was capable of doing anything. He would not be surprised if he sent his root agents to capture him. The old Warhawk had a way of controlling people, but he did not fear that because of his grandfather and his shotgun gun. He could resist any hypnosis. No one could control him with his shotgun gun. Zetsu appeared from the ground. It was only a head, though. Naruto looked at him. How long have you been there, Zetsu? Long enough to hear everything you said to Danzo, Zetsu replied. Since you were here, did you have a white Zetsu spore attached to the Danzo? Naruto asked. He thought that Zetsu might have done that, knowing that Danzo was a threat. Yes, I figured that you might want me to do that, Zetsu said. Good. That man is slippery. You can never know what he will do next. With Zetsu's spore on him, I will know everything he does. What he says, who he meets, when he eats. I do not want that old man to surprise me at some point, Naruto said. When are you going to make a move against him? Zetsu asked. I will not make a move, Suki will. I'll just have to put the right cards in the right place, in the right time, and everything will take on its own, Naruto said as Zetsu chuckled. You're even more manipulative than your grandfather, and your power is already coming close to his, Zetsu said. Naruto nodded, agreeing with Zetsu. I know that, he said.